All right, hello everybody. My lighting is off today. I'm really sorry about that. New computer and haven't got everything quite right yet. All right, here we go. Good stuff. We're going to talk about marriage. We're going to start with talking about marriage. We're going to talk about several things. Marriage is there's a scripture in the Old Testament that says that something along the lines of, I should have looked it up, I'm just thinking this off the top of my head, but talks about um, it is God's highest institution, something like that. I don't know exactly, but um, there's some things on there that are obvious, but I just want us to state marriages are so many times neglected, and people don't even realize they're neglecting their marriage. And when it is neglected, it definitely deteriorates. This may be a bit cheesy of an analogy, but I frequently use the analogy of if you never change the oil in your car, if you never get a tune-up, if you never do anything to take care of your car, eventually it's going to quit running. It'd take a while, take a long while, and some of the things that would begin to happen would be very gradual and hard to see. And that's kind of how it is for marriages that go for years and years and years of neglect. um, there, I look at my friends, I look at my kids' friends' parents, and I see an awful lot of marriages that they're just kind of there. They're not really excited about each other. They don't like each other. They don't talk. They don't communicate. I mean, you can just tell. My kids can tell. My kids will tell you, "Oh yeah, they don't like each other." Like, oh, um, marriage counseling doesn't always help, but it does often help. It tends to be fairly successful. A lot of that has to do with how motivated people are. Some people are very motivated. Some people are not very motivated to fix their marriages. And at the same time, we need to not forget that there are a lot of happy marriages out there. There are people who have been married for a long period of time and love each other and enjoy each other. You've probably seen a little old man or a little old lady, a little old man and a little old lady at church or at the mall or whatever, holding hands, talking, smiling. You can just tell they love each other. It's just beautiful and sweet. Unfortunately, we don't see enough of that, but it's out there. All right. I thought this was cute. Sometimes we feel like we're being asked to compromise in ways that we just can't. Um, but certainly compromise is something I think that's important in a marriage, not compromising your beliefs, but making compromises. About 80% of counselors in private practice see couples. It's a big part of many of their private practices, and probably a higher percentage of pastors. Many people go to their pastor first before they go see a counselor. Um, Sometimes what we see is simply a symptom of something worse. You can see that with physical illness also. There would be examples of that. So things like selfishness, lack of love, sexual mistreatment, and that's a strong sounding term, but it doesn't have to be like sexual abuse, although there is such thing as sexual abuse and rape in marriage, unfortunately. But that's just not being sensitive and loving in terms of working to understand and meet each other's needs. Substance abuse, unwillingness to forgive, oof, that's a biggie. Anger, resentment, bitterness, hatred, I would add to that. Communication problems, anxiety. You'll hear these terms probably again as we talk about this. um, um, Feelings of inferiority. When people feel inferior, they tend to overcompensate. They tend to um, act out, lash out sometimes, or withdraw, which is kind of usually one of the two extremes. Sin in general impacts our marriages, obviously, sexual addictions, and deliberate rejection of God's will. um, I don't know if y'all have ever thought of this, but never once did Jesus say marriage be healed. He helped people become whole, and whole people, healthy people have healthy relationships. Unhealthy people have unhealthy relationships. Um, he was big on people taking personal responsibility for their actions and their thoughts, um, which is obviously key when it comes to deal with marriages. So what causes marriage problems? A million different things, but there are, it starts with um, a misunderstanding of some of the basic purposes of marriage, an unwillingness to grasp some of the purposes of marriage. Genesis does a good job of, it's the leave and cleave concept that we talk about in the Bible. We leave our families, our parents, we join together, and then we become one. And this three-pronged process gives us a lot of insight into what causes problems when those things are not dealt with appropriately. So when we don't really separate from our parents, when we allow them to interfere or intervene beyond what would be appropriate, when we don't protect each other from our parents and or in-laws, this leave portion is not handled right, and it can cause conflict and problems in the marriage. Becoming one, yes, that is the Bible talks a lot about that being a sexual act, but it's more than that as well. The Bible supports that too. In terms of their spirit, soul, and body, again, y'all are going to see that a lot. There are surprises that come up that cause problems for couples. People are surprised that their expectations are not met. People are surprised that sex can be challenging and disappointing at times. I think our society is to blame for that. Magazines and media and internet and TV and movies portrays it as just sex is just easy and beautiful and amazing and mind-blowing orgasms, and it's just all wonderful. But that's just not reality in marriage. Problems with communication obviously is a biggie. People are surprised that there's unhealthiness and two broad categories of unhealthiness in relationships as people either begin to drift apart and just kind of do their own thing. They don't share goals, visions, dreams. They just do, each are kind of separate, or they merge together too muchly so, to where they lose their own identity. They don't have a sense of self. They become way overly engulfed and enmeshed in one another's life, and oftentimes controlling each other, and it just gets can get real messy and ugly. That almost sounds like a good thing. Oh, they're merging together. That's good. Yeah, but too muchly so. There's other people in the family that need our attention, and other relationships and friendships and work. I mean, there's other things that we have to balance between. People are surprised at unwise choices. Sometimes that has to do with debt, career choices, affairs, and of course the affair is kept secret. Sharing too much with others, talking to your parents about your spouse, and about things about your relationship that are intimate that really should not be done. Poor health choices. People may have some kind of an illness and they don't take care of themselves. They don't take their medicine. They don't eat right. They don't exercise, and it can be like multiple visits to the ER because of it, kind of a thing in extreme cases, and that can put strain on marriage, obviously. Sometimes people avoid difficult discussions, and decisions, and they avoid conflict resolution, and that's problematic. Secrets is another one that people are surprised that their spouse has secrets. Sorry, my voice is rough today. My allergies kicked back up. Lovely. They were good for a long time, and now they just All right, so what are some things that undermine couples? And you say that busyness is one of those things that is a huge challenge for Christian couples and families today. We are way busier than we were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Too many activities, too many choices. We want to do it all, oftentimes. Role confusion, gender roles. What does dad do? What does mom do? What does husband do? What does wife do when it comes to um, uh, domestic duties, indoor and outdoor? Um, when it comes to paying the bills, finances, decisions, um, the whole, who's going to do what. And what's part of what's confusing about this is, if you're married, you know this, is well, my dad did this, so this is the way you do it, or my mom did this, so this is the way you do it. So the guy is expecting the wife to act like his mom did, and the girl is expecting the husband to act like her dad did. Yeah, I think I said that right. Um, so anyway, that work was negotiating that out and working that out is challenging. Um, Inflexibility. Some people are just not very flexible. It can be schedule changes. It can be timing. It can be willingness to do things differently. And people are just inflexible, and that's causes huge problems. Some personality types are more susceptible to that than others. Um, Religious views, and even if people are maybe even went to the same type of church for years and years and years, they oftentimes have very, very different views, theological ideas, ways of looking at the Bible, morality, right, wrong, ethics, those kinds of things. And that can cause problems. Value differences. Um, some people value time, some people value people, some people value money more than others. Value relationships, time spent together. Um, There's just certain things that are important to us, and sometimes those clash. Conflicting needs. Some people have the need to dominate. Some people have the need to control, possess, achieve, help, rescue. All those kinds of things can be conflicting if you're trying to rescue somebody and they don't want to be rescued, or helped and they don't want to be helped. But you find a lot of value in helping and rescuing, then there's a conflict of needs there. Personality differences. Um, those are really not the end of the world. There are personality tests that will tell you you may struggle with, is kind of how they'll word it. There's usually you aren't going to get along with. Sometimes you do. These personality types. So that's just a reality, that there are some personality types that we um, get along with better than others. However, once you're married, you may get along fine, but there are things about the other person's personality that are going to be different, and they're going to be challenging for y'all to work out, for the couple to work out. Money and debt. How much money do you spend? Who makes the decisions about the money? How much debt do you get in? What do you get in debt for? Everything from the only thing you can get in debt for is your house. All your cars should be paid for by cash, and everything else paid for by cash, to um, being in debt. I call it stupid debt, just credit card debt for anything and everything, shopping and clothes and food and anything and everything, and not keeping up with paying it off regularly. um, let's see, hold on. Yeah, more things that undermine boredom. People just get bored with each other sometimes. Um, that can happen in their conversation. That can happen in their sexual life. That can happen in just about any area. And then the last one is a weakening of emotional bond. This is usually a result of unresolved conflict. It can be teeny tiny unresolved conflicts, lots of them over a period of time, builds up and begins to be a wedge between the couple. um, some things are a huge jolt to people. Severe medical crisis, unexpected, sudden death of like a child or a close friend or family member, discovered infidelity, natural disasters. We just had some friends that their house burnt, not to the ground, but so severely that they're going to be out of their house for, it looks like, about a year. um, and that's has the potential to be very hard on couples. Um, Deep disappointment. They were struck by lightning, so yeah, it was a natural disaster. I was thinking, was that natural? Yeah, lightning. Deep disappointments in each other, in yourself, in life, whatever, and financial or career collapse. And more things that jolt, in-law boundaries. Well, I won't limit myself to two things, but a couple of things I want to say about that. A few. One is, it is very, very important for, I believe, each to take up for or protect, defend against the attack of the other one's in-laws. So in other words, that would be me protecting my wife from my parents, her protecting me from her parents, but I would be more inclined to say I will protect myself from her parents, and I will protect her from her parents, and I will protect her from my parents. I really believe that's just me, in terms of role. I believe that's a man's role. I believe a woman can do that, but I believe the man needs to step up and take up for and protect his wife, and that's a real common deal. The mother-in-law is mean to the daughter-in-law, and the husband just sits by and lets it happen, as opposed to stepping in and saying, no, 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 you will not treat her like that in front of me, or period. I mean, I just, yeah. Oh, but she's your mom. She's not going to hate you. She'll get it. She'll learn to act right, over time. Yeah, it'll cause conflict. Yeah, she may blow up. Yeah, she may melt down. But you know what? I'm going to protect my wife, period. That's my number one job at this point, I believe. Children's needs, special needs, or high need children, small children, just have a lot of needs just because they're small. Changing diapers, feeding, clothing, cleaning, everything. You do everything, and you got two or three little guys under 5 years old, and it's like, whew, very demanding. Infertility can be a very painful battle for people, and then of course financial challenges, which we've already touched on, is one of those things that can be a huge challenge. So if marital problems go undealt with on over a long period of time, these are some of the effects. There's certainly more than this, but there can be confusion, despair, feelings of hopelessness. This concept of just long-term marital problems really tends to breed more conflict, withdrawal. People may stay in the home but withdraw, or they just completely desert the other. And then obviously ultimately separation and divorce. In counseling marital problems, you really want to start with your own attitudes and biases and feelings about marriage or about marriage problems. You want to be alert and aware and educated about certain issues like theoretical positions, techniques. Do you see the couples together, alone, both at the same time? How many sessions are you going to see these people? Those kinds of things. um, Help them determine why they came at the very beginning, and find out what their level of commitment is. It's interesting. Sometimes one of them says 8 and the other one says 2. It's like, oh my, well, you're here, so let's work with what we got. But you want to know what I do use the 1 to 10 frequently with couples on that. You want to partner with them to help them set goals. Remember, it's not your goals, it's their goals. But you can help coach them along that process. Remember people. Focus on the emotional bond. Remember that there's a lot of emotion that makes things irrational, and sometimes we're trying to come up with a rational, logical, reasoning type solution, and there needs to be focus on the human touch between the two of them. Once we've met with a couple for a while and build rapport with them and connect with them and listen to them, um, then we have enough trust, enough rapport built up to begin to work on the problems, which can be really scary for people. um, Focus on the process, look for how they relate and how things unfold and how how their relating skills may be changing over time. Look for patterns and themes of both positive and negative. Don't forget the positive. We tend to look for the problem. Let's find the problem, find the problem. But we need to remember to focus on their strengths and encourage them in those. Um, be aware of common mistakes as a counselor. Uh, you have to provide structure. That is your job. You don't dictate, you don't control, but you are providing structure. You have a beginning point, you get things started, you move from chit chat, gee, it's been raining a lot, to, okay, what's going on with you guys and how are we doing? You follow up on stuff, you move the session along and you wrap it up. So you provide structure. um, Another mistake would be not having a plan for change. Okay, so if y'all come to me and you say you're hurting and you're struggling, that means something has to change. How's it coming on that? Are we laying things out? What are we going to change? What do y'all want to change? What are you willing to begin to work to change? Those kinds of things, both individually as well as in the dynamics of the relationship and the communication, the way they communicate with each other. Um, don't assume all couples are the same. Just remember the uniqueness and the individuality. What works with one couple may not work with another couple. Um, and we are, it would be a mistake to abandon your values about marriage that really tough when someone just, they've been in counseling with you for a while and they just flat out decide to get a divorce. I can't choose for you, right? I just can't. Jesus didn't choose for the rich young ruler. He just walked away. Like, okay, uh, he left it. Um, so letting people make their own choices. Sure, we can challenge but begging and pleading and going crazy over it, it's not your place. Um, how do we prevent marital problems? We teach biblical principles about marriage. We help people walk that out in very real and practical ways. We focus and teach the general concept that marriage is very important. We encourage marriage enrichment. One of the things I tell couples after I've been working with them for a while is I'll say, look, you guys need to either touch base back with a counselor, whether it's me or someone else, or um, go to a marriage weekend marriage seminar. Find a big church in your area if your church doesn't have it, and do a marriage enrichment seminar. Can be very powerful, and then you're just really encouraging them to understand the commitment aspect. The Whether I like you right now or not, or whether I'm mad at you right now or not, I'm still committed to you, kind of thing. Use the wedding as a teaching tool. There's a million symbols. There's a lot of symbolism in the wedding ceremony. You can look at the things that they said to each other, not in a condescending, oh, you're not doing this kind of thing, but as a teaching tool, it can be powerful. um, there's so much good information out there on communication and conflict resolution skills, teaching them how to resolve conflict, walking them through an appropriate apology. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings is not an appropriate apology ever. Um, you're hurt. I see that you're hurt. What I did hurt you. Uh, I regret that I hurt you. It was wrong. Please forgive me. Big, 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 big difference. A lot more genuine. It's a lot more power. So anyway, you teach those, and that's not all there is to conflict resolution, obviously, but those are the kind of things we want to teach them, and encourage them to people go see a counselor. It's a good thing. Okay, let's see. I think this is supposed to be a different chapter. Yep. Sorry about that. I've been trying to put the chapter up there. So that was 29. We skipped 30. This must be 31, I believe. Right, family issues. um, at some level, it's like, well, the marriage is family. Yes, it is. But now we're talking about integrating, sometimes even extended family, but certainly the the family that you're working with. At the beginning of this chapter, it tells a story of a lady who didn't was working with a counselor who was working with a couple, and she had no respect for for the wife whatsoever. And without having some respect for something, you got to find something you can respect them for. Um, it's like it's like you don't like them, It's like you don't want to help them. I mean, you do, but you know what I'm saying. It's nearly impossible to help someone if you don't have some level of respect for them. um, if you can't connect with people, can't connect with families, you can't help them as a counselor. Hardly at all. If you're a pastor and you know you're not good at connecting with people, I hope you believe in growth and change because you can learn and grow in that. And this class actually gives you a lot of like just using solar skills, for examples. Huge, huge, huge in learning to connect with people, learning reflective listening skills, those kinds of things. That's how we connect. Well, I'm not good at that. Well, learn it and do it. Practice it. Just do it. I didn't ask you to feel it. I didn't ask you to like it. I didn't ask you to agree with it. Just do these things, and it'll become more natural over time. What does the Bible say about family? Boy, it's tells a lot of stories of a lot of family problems. Everything from Cain and Abel to Abraham and Sarah and David's sons and David's wives, and uh, wow, I mean, it's crazy. Jacob and Esau, and Esau was going to kill Jacob. I mean, it's amazing the level. I mean, we read these stories, it's like, wow, but think of that was your family, like, and that stuff's going on. Like, oh my gosh, my kids are going to kill each other, or my kids did kill each other. Whew. My son is overthrowing my kingdom and ran me out of the palace. Like, oh my! I mean, it's just these are not small events. These are extremely traumatic and extremely big events. Um, Relatively little is said about how families are to function. Probably heard of Dr. Gene Getz, pastor, teacher, author, um, and he really takes the approach that anything that's written in terms of church and the way the church is supposed to treat one another and get along would apply to the families. That the family is like a little miniature church. um, So the conclusion we get from what we understand about families coming from the Bible is that um, anything having to do with relationships and forgiveness and love and conflict resolution and being unselfish and giving and loving and caring and ministering to one another and respecting one another and treating one another with tenderness and forgiveness and love and all that stuff right in there applies to the family as well. Um, what causes family problems? Again, there's never any one cause. It is a bunch of different things, and it's never just one thing. Um, sometimes we can point to a precipitating event. Oh, there was an affair. That's the one thing. No, 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 no. Wait a minute. People don't just wake up, have a beautiful relationship. Everything's wonderful, man. I'm so in love. I'm so excited. We're doing good, and boom, just have an affair. No, 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 no. If they had an affair, there has been communication breakdown and conflict and loss of interest in one another and unresolved conflict and all kinds of stuff going on that led up to that affair. And so it's never one thing. All right. Stresses from the past um, and present, even events, experiences, worldview of the family members. Sometimes they're very different, especially as kids get older. Their worldview is not exactly like mom and dad's. Sometimes husbands and wives' worldview are not the same. That's why the Bible says, one of the reasons the Bible says, don't be unequally yoked. um, expectations for the future. People's expectations get squashed, and sometimes they feel helpless and hopeless. um, Decisions made that are poor decisions. cause family problems. There's the whole stages, and when I say stages, I'm talking about like um, married with no children, married with young children, married with middle-aged children, married with teenagers, married with college kids, married with completely empty nest. That's kind of roughly the stages that we're talking about, and understanding that there are unique needs and unique challenges at each one of those phases and stages. Um, racial and cultural challenges. Sometimes that has to do with just getting along with neighbors and community. Sometimes that is the two people who got married are very different racially and culturally. Immigrant parents and their children. So let's say you've got a 40-something-year-old couple. They moved here when they were 20. They had kids here in America, got married here in America, had kids here in America, and their kids are culturally very different from them. Um, so that's what we're talking about in terms of that. If you've ever known someone that's in that setting, it's an interesting. There are definitely some challenges, and especially if there's grandparent, parent, and child, and the child is the one that was raised in America. You have small, medium, and large in terms of emphasis on uh, culture of their homeland. Where is God? No place or distorted theology can cause family problems. Huge, obviously. The ABC model is a helpful way to look at and think about as you're dealing with families. Sorry. A stands for family stress. B is the family's resources. C is how the members view the situation, their perception, in other words. And then X is the severity or the outcome of the situation. Here are some of the effects of family problems. It is a long list, and it is not a. It is not. It is not an all. It's not an all-inclusive list. I'm sorry. Look, I just saw this. I was trying to figure out what in the world that was supposed to be, and I will fix it right here, right now. Ha! There you go. That is supposed to be negativism. That is much better. All right. Yeah, I don't think I'll say much about those. We've covered a lot of that already. Counseling family problems, obviously use the ABC model, can be helpful. 5 levels of involvement with families that you can be a part of helping make happen with people. Pastors certainly have a lot of power when it comes to this in terms of encouraging families to be a part of community programs and churches. Does the church provide childcare? Is there programs for marriages and families to help people with parenting skills? All those kinds of things. Number 2 is just education, providing knowledge for people about family, what it makes, what it takes to have a healthy family. Let's see, level 3, feelings and support. This gets more into counseling, getting support, encouragement, guidance. Level 4, brief counseling, and level 5, long-term counseling. There is a place for level 4. Sometimes people just have a little bump or snafu and they're stuck, and they come in, they work on the finding a solution to that specific problem, and they're fine. And then prevention is, there's a little section in the book on prevention, and this is all I wrote down about prevention. It is doing all of the things we've talked about doing and not doing all of the unhealthy things that we talked about doing. That is how we prevent family issues: loving, genuine, caring, communication. All right, chapter 32, divorce and remarriage. So I want to start by saying, for if there's anybody listening that is divorced, my heart goes out to you. I want to talk about the pain that divorce brings. I think people that are divorced and children of divorced parents, many times in my world, have been the first to come forward and say, yes, you are right. It is very, very painful for everyone involved. So please don't misunderstand any of my statements as judgmental or condemning, because I believe in God's forgiveness after divorce and for divorce. It's people are like, well, it's so cruel to say God hates divorce. We'll take that up with God because He said it, but He hates it because He loves us. It's not cruel. It's beautiful. He hates it because He understands um, the destruction that it brings. The Bible never commands divorce, never encourages divorce. It allows for it in a couple of places, unfaithfulness and unbelieving mates deserting the family. It's like, okay, they're unwilling to live with you and they're not a Christian and you are, then you can walk away. Appears to be. We got a scripture coming up. We'll look at that. And that's controversial at times with people, but um, again, we can stand on our head and scream in the corner, but someone's going to divorce, they're going to divorce. I don't rejoice with that ever. Sometimes it just happens. Um, Certainly, permanence and intimate union between husband and wife is the Bible's position on marriage. Here we go. Here's the scriptures stating both faithfully and sexual as well as the remarrying aspect of it. This is another one of those controversial things. I think these two scriptures are pretty clear that says if someone is unfaithful, they have broken the covenant. It is a covenant. They've broken the covenant. It's over. It's done. You can restore. Many people do restore. I've had people in my family that have restored. But if there's unrepentant unfaithfulness and continued unfaithfulness and unwillingness to resolve, then the other person is free to marry and to leave and remarry. Bible also says if you, short of this, if you leave someone and remarry, that it is adultery. Um, just like with family problems, there is no single cause. There's always multiple causes. I want you to think about that sometimes well, why did your parents divorce? Um, whose fault was it, his or hers? Ooh, I hope you never ask that question. Because there's nobody perfectly innocent. There's always, everybody has a part in it. So some of the causes of divorce, sexual infidelity, desertion, someone just deserts, up and runs and leaves, escalating conflict, which includes violence. Greater cultural acceptance of divorce in general causes people to divorce because it's like, no big deal, just divorce. Personal immaturity, persisting stress. How does divorce impact us? Emotional effects, behavioral effects, social effects. There's, I think, 5 or 7 of these in this list. I gave up on numbering because I jumped from slide to slide and it's all messed up. I think y'all probably remember that. I was like, whoa, never mind the numbers. So people have all kinds of negative emotions stirring in them. This is not an all-inclusive list. Behaviorally, people really do poorly at work. Oftentimes, um, sometimes they drink and drug to cope with it. Sometimes they go out partying, just do crazy things. So these are behaviors. Sometimes it's hard for them for them to just complete a basic, like finish doing the laundry. I mean, they're depressed, they have no energy, they're exhausted, socially, there's a lot of changes. Are you going to still be friends with each other? Are you still going to be friends with your ex-in-laws? Sometimes the ex-in-laws are better friends than your own parents, and that continues after divorce sometimes. Things will change, the dynamics will change. If you're used to showing up to stuff as a couple and now you're showing up to stuff single, then that changes things. Physically, people become more ill, have more illnesses, and then their health declines in general after divorce. Um, and there's been tons of studies on that and findings that clearly it's just, yeah, more illness, more trips to the doctor. Spiritually, actually, a lot of times people do grow closer to God, but certainly some drift away. um, if parents have a hard time focusing at work, how much harder do you think it is for kids to focus at school? All kinds of, I believe divorce is particularly damaging to young children because of their limited capacity to manage and understand and process and cope. Um, all they know is daddy's no more longer here all the time, and my mommy and daddy don't love each other anymore, and they've it's just sad. It's very, very, very painful, and many of you have probably gone through that. And my heart goes out to you. Counseling divorce, stay consistent with the biblical teaching, minimize pain and destruction to self and others. Not you, the self, although yes, but help each individual to minimize the pain that they go through. In other words, people will do stupid things that backfire and cause them more pain. You're helping them not do that. Maximize growth and learning opportunities out of that. Um, Counselors want to seek too, in the process of working with people that are divorced or divorcing. Um, oh, sorry. Be clear on your attitudes towards divorce. Be honest about what you believe the Bible says. Help them determine counseling goals. This sounds familiar, right? Work on emotional identity, emotional issues, identity issues, and other practical issues. Um, Help them build and redefine relationships with former spouse and extended family and children. Now, redefine relationship with former spouse. If there's no children, oftentimes that's just kind of the end of that, and they go their own ways and they may never see each other again. That's fairly rare, actually. But when there's children, it's really important that you have a peaceful relationship with your ex. If at all possible, that's much better for the children. Really, it's healthier for you, both of you as well too. And just help them rebuild their lives. Help them get back and go on with church and find their niche at church. Maybe some volunteer work. Help them think through once it's been long enough. I mean, right after the divorce, no, but help them think through. Am I going to date to remarry? Those kinds of things. Looking at that. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. All right, guys. Good night. God bless. Love you all. Have a great rest of the day or night, whatever it is for you. Bye bye.